Coming up this week, we're going to take out this brand new 2025 Ford F-150, courtesy of our friends from Ford. This is the entry-level F-150, and we're going to take it around these back roads and see if we can go a little off-roading while we're at it. That's what we got coming up. I'm Jay Walker, watching Life Off-Road, right here on J-Dub Motorsports. Welcome back to another episode of Life Off-Road. Thanks again for hitting that play button, folks. And remember, while on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. A lot of you guys have been doing that. We really appreciate it. We try to have at least 5,000 subscribers by the end of this year, so we're halfway to that point. So thanks a lot for sharing and tuning in. The car we're featuring this week is a truck. This is a full-size truck, F-150 from my friends over at Ford. Been lucky to have this bad boy for the last week or so, driving it around. And this is the entry level, the XLT, so it's not the full-grown version of the truck. But if you remember, a couple years ago, we did a feature on my buddy Mario's F-150 that had the supercharger maxed into it, and we did it before and after he had the 5.0 liter. And kind of during that video, I was kind of making some comments about how they was putting V6s in these, and I was kind of anxious to see how they would actually drive. This one right here has that V6. It's equipped with a 3.5 liter EcoBoost V6, making almost around 400 horsepower, 400 foot-pounds of torque. So pretty nice strong truck for a V6. Of course, when you first start it up, it doesn't sound like a V6, but it's nicely done. Still the same features as we have. The outside of the truck got nice little flarings, the F-150 badge right here. And like I said, this is your basic 4x4. It's got a nice set of 18-inch wheels on there, 275s all the way around. This one has a set of step bars that comes along with it. So I get you one to kind of swing around the front to show off this new grille for 2025. You have kind of the whole continuation. This is like all one piece right here, folks. If you notice the all-electric Ford Lightning, this actually is a light bar that comes across and it lights up the whole grille. But right here, you just basically have your standard headlamps right here. Your daytime running lamps right here, which lights up when you're riding through the day. And you got this nice massive hood, what Ford calls kind of the power dome hood, because it's so big and massive. But this gives you that aggressive look, so you still kind of keep it aggressive. Of course, you got the big round Ford oval right here to show off that badge. Tow hooks right here. You got a couple of sensors around, but pretty much all around nice standard 4x4 truck. We will take it a little off-roading a little bit later, kind of show off its skills a little bit. Let's take a look at this EcoBoost engine. It's a hot day today, folks. We're in the beginning of July, so it's roughly about 90 degrees out here. So we're trying to stay cool, but there it is, folks, your 3.5 liter V6 tucked away in there, nicely done. Pretty clean engine, and like I said, it definitely does handle pretty well. I've been quite impressed for the week or so I've had this vehicle. You know, it's been pretty reliable. You know, got your custom air intake here, goes off to your air filter, your one piece here. Got your nice big size battery just in case you need to jump somebody off. But plenty of room in case you wanted to swap it out and put a big V8 in there, add a supercharger on, put a Whipple supercharger on there, you can do it. So we swing around to the rear of the vehicle. Like I said, this is a 4x4, folks. Got a nice size bed. Let's let the tailgate down, and like I said, this is your entry-level F-150, so you don't get the pull-out tray and the step ladder. You know, this is just a simple truck. You do, however, get a couple of, I want to say these are kind of outlets you can kind of use, or maybe that's just your storage area. I know some of these have upgraded outlets out here if you wanted to fully power up something, I'm hearing that you could kind of treat this kind of like a generator. So you like on a campground or your house happens to lose power, you can plug up to these outlets they have on the side of the wall. I know these are normally lights right around in here, so if you had your lighting zone, it'll kind of light up the area of the truck. But like I said, folks, this is just basic beginners F-150, which I actually like. You know, you kind of get quite a few bells and whistles with it just being an entry level. You know, I will have to admit that, you know. So if you really want to bargain, and they always say, you know, Ford has the #1 selling pickup trucks, and they do that for a reason. I mean, this is probably the entry level where most people go with. I hear you get a lot of good rebates out of grabbing one of these and kind of just build it and dress it up as you like. So can't really go wrong with it. Let's check out this interior. All right, folks, so we're inside the vehicle right now. As you see, I have a ginormous space of room in here. I mean, it's a quite big truck. Like I said, your basic F-150, so you have basically your cloth seats. You have your console here, which turns into an extra seat if you wanted to have an extra row of seats, but we have that down where you have your cup holder. It passes the tumbler test. Have a little bit of extra storage in here for all your personal items. And you get this massive inch, I want to say this is 13, 14 inch screen here. So you have all your options right now. We're currently on your radio options. You have a audio source where you can choose your satellite radio. You set up your Bluetooth. Of course, you have your phone, connect your phone. You have several apps: Apple CarPlay, Android, YouTube, mobile apps. And that's all you have with that. The zone lighting is what I was describing earlier outside, where you have a set of lights on the outside of the truck that kind of lights up your space around you. So if you're ever in a parking lot or somewhere, you come out, it's pitch black, you can kind of light up the truck. And that's kind of what this diagram shows you right here, where it kind of just lights up the certain area of the truck so you can have enough light or whatnot. But you know, you have all your settings here: phone list, radio, vehicle. This one does not have the nav system in here, so I'm pretty sure you could probably upgrade to it if you want or whatnot. This is four-wheel drive, so you have your driver mode here. You have your four-wheel drive high, four-wheel drive low right there. You got a couple of USB ports here if you want to plug in. Plenty of jacks. You have your 12-volt jack here. Also a nice little plug-in in case you want to plug in your laptop or something right there. You can do that as well. Other than that, I like how the setup is here. You know, you got your air conditioning, heat, and all that right here. You know, your fan button here if you want to crank it up, turn it down. This one does not have the dual climate control as if you was to get like a Lariat edition or even just a more premium XLT package, which I'm sure you can get all of that with the dual climate, your gear shifting the floor. One of my gripes I kind of didn't like about this one is that this one has the standard key. You know, when you upgrade, you have the push button start. The problem with this for me is that this key is, you know, a nice little switchblade, and it kind of reminds me of my Camaro car. So you have your lock unlock button and you go to pop it up, and when you get to turn it, my thing is to try to crank it up, you kind of risk of hitting the panic button or something, trying to get a nice firm grip to turn it. I mean, that's just me kind of being picky, but you know, I would rather have the push button start. So that's kind of one of the things I would probably knock about it. But you have all your steering wheel controls right here. You know, you got your cruise control. You could change your menu up on here or whatnot. Like your standard, you know, your volume, voice control, whatnot. And you have your column shifter up here. But nicely done for it to be a basic F-150. Like I said, this is a good daily driver. Place to hide your sunglasses right here. The back seat, like I said, you got plenty of room in the back, you know. I mean, the F-150s have always had a nice interior as far as comfortability you know, going on nice little road trips or whatever, you got plenty of space, you know, plenty of leg room. So hey man, I'm about ready to get out this heat and take this bad boy for a ride. So let's take it out for a ride. All right, here we go. The all new 2025 Ford F-150 XLT. Again, big shout out to our friends over at Ford for letting us have a go for this past week to get to drive this thing as a daily driver. I've been driving it back and forth to work, and it's actually been a pretty good truck. You know, for it to be an entry level, you know, just bare minimum, you know, it's like I said, it doesn't have as many bells and whistles as you would like, but actually the way it comes, I mean, for it to be just the minimum standard, you get quite a bit of options in this thing, you know, so to speak. Get a nice little nav screen here. Of course, you might have to upgrade the software to get the actual nav, but you got Bluetooth, you got Apple CarPlay, Android Play, you know, Sirius XM satellite. I mean, you get the whole nine. Bluetooth, I believe it comes with Wi-Fi, so you get quite a bit for the basic entry, and that's probably one of the main reasons why Ford has had the #1 selling pickup truck of all time, you know, so can't really beat it there. I love the dash set out. You know, you got your all digital dash right here, which is pretty cool. They kind of keep up with the modern technology, you know, the vehicles come with. This one, like I said before in the video, has the EcoBoost 3.5 liter, which I kind of scoffed at in the early years of this engine coming out because I didn't know much about it. You know, like I said before early in the video, a buddy of mine had the new, his was a 23 or 24 F-150, but he had the 5.0 liter Coyote engine in it. And, you know, when I kind of made I wouldn't say a slick comment about the EcoBoost, you know, I got a lot of pushback from a few Ford guys and a couple of troll guys. I was like, hey, you know, Ford wants to let us have one for a week or two just to test it out, you know, hey, my opinion might change, and voila, we have an EcoBoost that we've had for the week. So hey, and I must say it's pretty nice, you know, good standard. You know, you don't get the V8 sound like you would get, but I mean, pickup wise, it gets up. You know, it's fairly strong. You know, it lets you know it's there. You know, it's not a burner, but it does just enough to keep up with the competition, and probably for the best value bang for your buck. You know, a lot of people probably go with this option. You know, a lot of people want pickup trucks just to kind of move stuff around. You know, if you're helping somebody move, or, you know, you got, you know, a lawn care business, or you just want to throw some stuff in the back, you know, if you don't really need the extra bells and whistles, hey, this is probably an option I would probably go with. You know, that's just me. But so far so good, man. You know, this one gives you roughly on average about 19.5 miles per gallon when you combine the city and the highway. I'm not sure how big the fuel tank is, but I would assume it's probably a 25-gallon tank if I had to guess. But ultimately, it's very comfortable, man. Sitting on some 18-inch wheels, got some all-terrain tires on it. You know, this is a 4x4, so you know, you can take it off-road. It sits just right. I mean, it's a pretty massive truck when you look at it from the outside. You know, it's not, just doesn't really look like your standard F-150. I mean, this is, just looking at it alone, you wouldn't think that it's powered by a V6, but you know, it is. But hey, man, I like it. Like I said, it's been good all week. So, you know, again, thanks to our friends at Ford, man, for hooking us up. So, hey, you could probably, like I said, take this out on a road trip. Like I said, this is basically just your entry level. So you just got your cloth seats. If I was to build one of these, I would probably build with a premium package or a platinum package where I have all the bells and whistles, you know, your leather seats, heated and ventilated, you know, your massage chairs or whatnot. But hey, if you just need something just to kind of daily drive and pick up some some yard supplies or whatever, hey, you really can't go wrong with this one. And I've always said before, you know, Ford has had very good riding vehicles, you know, as they've gotten along, you know, especially with the full-size trucks, your SUVs, you know, your Expeditions, you know. They was probably one of the first ones to go to the independent rear suspension. They haven't quite done that on the trucks. I do believe the Lightning does have the independent rear suspension, but I don't think your basic 4x4s, unless you probably, I guess, the more upgrades you do, you might get that independent rear suspension. But this one is just your typical live axle and rides perfectly fine. And this one does, you know, the diagram on here lets you know you got the green light, you got your seatbelt on top of your gauges. You know, cars today, vehicles today are really up the ante when it comes to all of the safety features. You know, they want to make sure that, you know, you are roadworthy and safe. Let's get on a little bit. Good amount of torque. You know it. You can hear that V6 kind of scream, but once you kind of drown it out, but it's got a nice little good torque. Can't really complain. There's an EcoBoost, so it does get out. It does get out. But not bad at all, man. Like I said, it's pretty truck. You know, even if it's like your entry level one, but I mean it's a nice pretty truck. I mean, this doesn't look like your typical work truck. You know, this is kind of your, you know, it's kind of hidden in disguise. You know, when you throw the 4x4 package on here and put the nice all-terrain wheels on it. I mean, it's a nice eye catcher, man. Nice little front grille, the nice little Ford grille, you know what I'm saying, with the daytime running lamps. I mean, it's spiffy looking. I can't complain. Let's see, we got 185 miles to go before our tank is empty. Gives you that calculation. Now, next up, we need to drive that F-150 Lightning, which is the all-electric version of the F-150. A lot of my true Lightning fans didn't really like that they call this truck the Lightning, because, you know, the Lightning was a horsepower, wheel spin, sound like Ric Flair, you know, tearing up the streets type of power. But hey, you know, it got the job done. Yeah, but, you know, a lot of those Lightning guys did not like when Ford brought the Lightning name back out and attached it to an all electric vehicle. But hey, I mean, it's a solid truck, man. So I would definitely be on board to drive it. The only electric vehicle we've driven from Ford was the all new Mach-E that came out a couple years ago, and that was a fun vehicle. Nice little crossover. We still haven't driven a GT version of that yet. I need to give my buddy Mike a call, see if he, because I know he was talking about getting a GT version of it. And I've seen quite a GT versions of that vehicle on the street, so they've done pretty well. They have been selling pretty good. So yeah, we'll have to get our hands on one of those. But yeah, man, it's a good truck. You know, I'm not ashamed to say it. You know, a lot of people think I always hate on Ford, but hey, man, you put out a good product, I'm gonna give you props. You know, and I've always had a a thing for the trucks and the SUVs, because I always thought that they actually rode very well, you know. They definitely rode very well and, you know, handled their own. And, you know, for the most part, it's good bargains. So you can kind of see why they're number one, you know, in truck sales. I mean, they're by far the most popular truck on the planet. And you kind of see why, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, they put out a good product. You know, they have over the last few years. I mean, they definitely have done a great job of just putting out a very solid product. And like I said, we've had this thing for the last week, you know, driving it back and forth to work, and you know, it's definitely done what it's supposed to do. I have no complaints about it. We're trying to dial it back a little bit because we have a Smoky upon us. For y'all layman's terms, it's 5-0. We don't want to get stopped by Johnny Law. Now, one of the other knocks I have about this thing is that this turn radius on this thing really sucks. It does not have a great turn radius. So if you're somewhere where you got to do a U-turn, you got to take it super wide. Otherwise, you're going to be putting it in reverse and doing some pull-ups to get it turned around. I don't know why that is in this one, you know, but I was kind of surprised by that. Normally these have good turn radiuses, but this one, I mean, it's probably one of the worst ones I've ever seen. But, you know, only a few knocks about this one, man. But other than that, man, good truck, man. I like it. So, yeah, be a shame to give this back to Ford, but hey, you know, this will be kind of our first of our truck series. And of course, you know, this V6 is very quiet, you know. You know, even if you put a set of duals on this thing, it's not going to be loud, you know. So it's a very economic pickup truck. Very economic. EcoBoost, folks. Very impressed. I'm not gonna lie to you. Very impressed with it, man. Not gonna lie. It's definitely worth all the hype it deserves. Definitely worth the hype. Now, what are you doing? That's it for this week. Appreciate our guys at Ford for letting us have a go with this one. We've had it all week, and it's been our daily driver. So it's been a good truck, man. This new 2025 XLT really gets the job done. So I want to thank them for that. Appreciate all my newest subscribers for newly subscribing. Thank you to my current subscribers for always passing the word along, telling your friends. We're trying to get our goal of 5,000 or more subscribers by the end of the year. We're halfway there right now, so appreciate you guys tuning in and passing the word along. Go to my website, jdubmotorsports.com, order you some merch. We got t-shirts, tumblers. The tumblers are back. Get you some hoodies. Get ready for the fall season, because it'll be here before you know it. So jdubmotorsports.com. I want to thank my help today, my son, my eldest child, for always coming through the clutch. Always takes amazing videos and pictures and always helps his daddy look good. You can follow him on his Instagram at Jeddoc, that's JEDDOC.LLC on his Instagram, and you can follow me on my Instagram page at JDub Motorsports IG page. Also, thanks to our other camera guys, Kyle, Devin Miles, and I hate to end this on a sad note, but we lost one of our other photographers a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Grenard Smith. He helped us out on a couple of our latest shoots, and we met Grenard probably last October, so it really hadn't been a year since we met him. But just an outstanding guy. He was a kind of semi-retired news media guy. He did a lot. He worked for a lot of TV stations in the Carolinas, Alabama, Kansas City area. So it was kind of funny how we met at the airport. You know, we was on our way on vacation to the Dominican Republic. We missed our first flight, so after scrambling to pick up our second flight, we was at the Delta terminal, and who sat right next to me was Mr. Grenard, and we kind of struck up a conversation that carried on to the plane. He sat in front of me, and my wife actually sat next to him, and they carried along the conversation, and we realized that we kind of knew some of the same mutual people or whatnot. And I saw quite a bit of his work, of his photographs or whatever. Just an amazing guy. And we got back from vacation, and he actually came and hung out with us for a while and took some excellent photos for us. And he actually came through on our very last shoot with JC and his ultimate car collection. You know, it was kind of a last minute, and my main son Juwan was out of town. His brother was helping out, but he had to go off to work, and at the last minute, Grenard came through the clutch. Was like, hey, I just wrapped up with my engagement. Where you at? Send me the address. And he came through, man, and I will always remember him from doing that. So I really appreciate him doing that, because he didn't have to do that. But just an outstanding guy. We're going to miss him, and you know, we're just in the show like that, man. So rest in peace to Grenard Smith. He was a great guy, and we'll catch you guys next time. Later.